A prominent family in a small Midwestern town get a lot more than they bargained for when they open up their home for a publicity stunt with an acerbic celebrity radio star. And so does he when his loyal secretary falls in love with one of the locals in the 1941 adaptation of the stage play comedy The Man Who Came to Dinner. And that's the movie we're dusting off this week on Movie Bones.
I simply will not sit down to dinner with Midwestern barbarians. I think too highly of my digestive system.
But Harry Clark is one of your oldest friends.
My stomach is an older one.
And Mrs. Stanley is president of the Women's Club.
I wouldn't care if she was the whole cabinet.
And it's important to Harry's future lecture bookings. You can't let him down.
Ernest, there he is. There he is.
That's probably Mrs. Stanley.
Oh, I won't budge.
Come on, baby kid.
He looks just like his picture, doesn't he? Oh.
You know, Sherry, you have one great advantage over everyone else in the world. You've never had to meet Sheridan Whiteside.
Of course, Massalia isn't a big town, Mr. Whiteside, but it's simply filled with culture. The night you lecture, everyone stays home, except if the Errol Flynn is playing, of course. And Massalia has many points of interest. There's the Crystal Cave, that's just a short drive from here.
And the petrified animals.
Are they coming to dinner too?
Help me! Get Maggie! Oh, Maggie! Oh!
You know, one of my favorite kind of genre tropes in movies is like the pincushion, especially when it's like someone who really deserves it, you know? Someone who could really like dish it out but also has to then end up taking a lot of it too. And the character in this one of Sheridan Whiteside, played by Monty Woolley, who I don't think I've seen anything with him in it before that I can think of, but I love his character and I love the way he pulls it off here. And then you have to have someone, of course, who is the opposite, right? His equal. And Bette Davis. I haven't really been a big Bette Davis fan, but this movie does make me feel or understand a little bit why Bette Davis was a star for the first time. You know, because we've seen other movies with her in it, right?
We've definitely seen, oh my goodness.
Well, it was
her and Joan
Crawford in, you know, Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. That was really good too.
Was that the only movie we've seen with her in it?
I'd have to check on that. You know, I do have a database of all this stuff, and I usually review it as we get closer to like a major like milestone episode for us, which we will be doing shortly. By the way, folks, we'll have a nice episode that kind of combines our second year anniversary with our kind of pseudo 100th episode celebration. So, but that'll be coming up shortly. In any case, Bette Davis though is like I know her track record with me has been kind of much more mixed. It's like I've never been a huge Bette Davis fan. This one makes me feel like I get her stardom now, at least when it comes to something like this.
I absolutely agree. And now I'm just going to go off of what we've seen her in with this. Because I remember it wasn't her acting that was the issue. It was just that character in Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. It was so unlikable, which is a testament to her. Good job. But the character was just so unlikable. The movie itself, we weren't really big fans of the movie. She plays a completely opposite character. Here in this particular movie, she's a very tolerating character, but she also doesn't she's also not a pushover. Like there's so many layers to this character. Yeah. And you just can't help but, you can't help but love it.
The way the character's written and the way she pulls it off, there's a strength in what she does there. And she needs to be in order to stand up she's the only one who's able to stand up, you know, to Sheridan. And boy, does he ever deserve it, man. Yeah,
absolutely. And but real quick, and that's probably why he does what he does, is because she 100% is that person in his life. Yeah. Like, I'm going to use internet lingo here and new age slang. He's very messy. He is a very messy person. Like, you know, and you realize, like, she keeps him somewhat in check. I think that's one of the things that's endearing about like the story itself is that while he is doing something that is wrong, it's wrong. We're not even going to. What he's doing is bad. It's not sympathy that I'm giving him, but like it is. It's like, okay, I see why you're doing it. It's horrible, but I see why you're doing it.
The movie does not make this explicit by any means. But it does kind of, in hindsight, you can kind of see there's a basis for this relationship that you can understand from real life analogs. Here's a guy who is like, he projects this sense of overbearing authority over everyone else around him. He's constantly, using his sharp tongue and wit to undercut people, everyone around him. And so you kind of, and it feels like almost like he's covering up for something that's lacking in his own personal, it's never revealed what that is per se. But it's like you feel like he's covering up for something in that he knows on some subconscious level that he needs someone to push him back. Maggie Cutler, she's the only one he's ever been able to find who can suitably push him back when he needs it. And it's like, so there's this kind of, it doesn't, like I said, the movie does not make this explicit, but in understanding a little bit about human nature, you could almost see that there's this unspoken need that he's expressing. And he expresses it awfully because it ends up driving, the ultimate wedge between him and her, which is like he's actually going to end up driving her away. And she's determined to do it. It's like, I am standing up for myself for once. And it's like, because this is something that I need for myself. And it's like, and for him, it's like he just sees the loss of her, and so it does a great job of setting this up. Even if it doesn't put all of its cards that's what it's doing on the table, I could at least see the subtext there.
Like, there's a lot of sight gags here. There's a lot of kind of slapstick comedy, if you ask me.
The penguins.
The penguins definitely. But and then how the resolution comes about is it's ridiculous. And that's the funny thing.
It's ridiculous, and it would be annoying if the movie didn't have the core central pillar holding it up between the two of them. Because his radio personality, I guess, has attracted all these kinds of eccentricities that surround him on a regular basis. He can manage that in his own head, and this is all part of his shtick, apparently. And he brings it all into the house with him. It makes it okay at the same time in a way to have that randomness, so that at the end of the film, it's like when another random thing shows up, and I'm not going to spoil it now, but it's like another random thing shows up, and you don't pay much attention to it at the time, and then they use it in such a way as to provide the solution to everyone's problems. It's like, okay, well, that's okay, Whereas another movie that would be like a Deus Ex Machina. First of all, this is a comedy, and Deus Ex Machinas can be used occasionally because it's not dramatically serious enough to think you were robbed by its use. But here it fits. It's part of the randomness, and it just fits. And it's like, well, how else would you get out of it in a movie like this? How really would you get out of it? He only gave him 5 minutes or 15 minutes to solve a problem.
I want to talk a little bit about this movie and how this movie is made. Of course, I am looking at a traditional just Wikipedia page and everything.
Yeah.
First off, Monty Woolley, so this is based off a play, or not based off a play.
Yes.
This is the movie version of the play.
I kind of figured that out.
Monty Woolley plays both characters, but he plays Whiteside in both the play and in the movie.
So he's got some experience.
I think he's absolutely got some experience with this particular character. That's really interesting.
And last week, and just as a connection to last week, Maximilian Schell played the role of the defense attorney in Judgment at Nuremberg on stage before he played it for the movie, and he knocks it out of the park too. It's like this is a common thing.
So this movie's written by two guys, George S. Kaufman and Moss Hart. They also wrote the play, and now they based the character of Sheridan Whiteside off of a guy named Alexander Walcott, who is a friend of theirs, I have to point that out. The whole idea, the thing with the friend, because they know, this guy is a character. And obviously they very much exaggerate his characteristics. However, it is kind of a thing. I want to read some of the parts here. At the time the play was written, Walcott was famous as both a theater critic who helped relaunch the career of the Marx Brothers, and as the star of the national radio show, The Town Crier. He was well-liked. I want to make that clear. He was well-liked by both Kaufman and Hart, but that did not stop him from displaying the obnoxious characteristics displayed by Whiteside in the play. They promised a vehicle for Walcott, but had been unable to find a plot that suited them until one day Walcott showed up unannounced at Hart's Buck County estate and proceeded to take over the house. He slept in the master bedroom, terrorized Hart. This is kind of a true story. Terrorized Hart's staff, terrorized Hart staff and generally acted like a Sheridan Whiteside. On his way out, he wrote in Hart's guest book, "This is to certify that I had one of the most unpleasant times I ever spent." Hart related the story to Kaufman soon afterwards, and they both laughed about it. Hart remarked that he was lucky that Walcott had not broken his leg and become stuck there. Kaufman looked at Hart, and the idea was born.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's like, because you have to have a reason for it to last a pretty long time. And that's all that was missing. It's like, if the guy's anything, there are people in our lives that can inspire us to creativity. And it's like, and if they're a good sport, and apparently this, Weiscott? Was his name? Walcott.
Walcott. I could be wrong. It could be Wolcott, but I'm keeping, it's Wollcott. So it could be Wolcott, but I'm thinking it's Walcott.
It sounds like Walcott, but it sounds like he probably must have had a pretty good sense of at least self-deprecating humor if they were still friends after all this, because it does not portray the character of Sheridan.
You're absolutely right. Of course, I'm just going by what this says, but yeah, you're right. That's the next paragraph down. He was delighted with the man who came to dinner and was offered the role on its Broadway debut, but with his busy schedule on radio broadcasts and lectures, he declined. Monty Woolley played the part on stage, and in subsequent film adaptation, Walcott did subsequently play Whiteside in a West Coast touring production of the play. And the printed edition of the play starts with the inscription, "To Alexander Walcott, for reasons that are nobody's business."
Man, that's one of the best kinds. That's one of the best kinds of kind of epitaphs you could have. Someone takes your life and kind of memorializes it in a way that's not to inflate your ego, but just to say, I love you, but this is who you were, and we're not going to shy away from it.
That's kind of the beautiful thing of this movie. I respect the creation process, because there's a lot of people that are actually based off of other people in this movie. Lorraine Sheldon, who eventually played the role of Gertrude Lawrence, that was an inspiration for this movie. Beverly Carlton, by playwright and renowned wit, was also an inspiration for this movie. And Banjo by Alcuin Roundtable member Harpo Marx. So that's one of the Marx brothers. So like you have a bunch of characters that are actually are inspired by other actual people.
And that kind of makes sense. Really, especially when it comes to like the Harpo Marx thing, because if you've ever watched like the Marx Brothers and their shtick, they are bouncing off the walls. And then when you see like what Jimmy Durante is doing in this movie, which if that's the inspiration, he's bouncing off the walls, and you can't take your eyes off of him. Well, he's Jimmy Durante. And I don't know if Jimmy Durante was also like, as they say, he would chase the women around like he does in this movie. Although I think he did, but so did Harpo Marx. So it's kind of like if he had to channel Harpo, he didn't have to go very far, So, but it wasn't just like those inspirational kind of nods to other people. Who, like you get a character who's kind of inspired by somebody else. What I really admire about the film too is it kind of sets you in a more real location. They're name dropping some pretty big name actors in their time that were really there and acting.
Which is funny because at one point, Cary Grant's name is dropped in the movie. He was actually considered to play Sheridan at one point.
Oh.
But they were like, no, he's far too young and he's far too attractive.
He's too attractive. He was not an old curmudgeon, okay? You need a curmudgeonly kind of, and it's especially someone who can do acerbic wit.
Here's another thing. I personally thought when I was watching the movie, I kept seeing Orson Welles. Not as the person acting, but I was like, this has to be like a shot at Orson Welles. It's not. We already explained it's not. But there is a connection there, and somewhat, because Orson Welles was a person considered to direct this movie.
Can you imagine?
And I'm like,
can you imagine though?
I want to imagine that, and I also want to say that he would have done everything in his power to make Whiteside come across more sympathetic, and which I think would have been way more not sympathetic.
Yeah.
Because, like, I like Orson Welles. I think but that dude very much believed that whatever he had going on didn't stink.
No, exactly, yeah. And it's not just that. It's like Orson Welles movies in the whole tend to be rather odd,
Oh, yeah. They're super experimental.
We saw The Trial. We saw, what was it? The Third Man. But did he direct that? I can't remember if he directed that or not. I know he's in it.
Yeah, he directed Third Man.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure he directed Third Man.
Because
he wrote it.
Yeah, okay, there you go. I mean, it's like, because those movies, it's like he does really offbeat kind of stuff. And this is not an offbeat film. Not that way. It's weird, but it's weird and very kind of, it's weird and very kind of like that standard acceptable kind of Broadway stage play comedy kind of way. Go ahead.
Yeah, he's just in it. He didn't do it. But I mean, I would also say that even if he didn't do it, he was just in it. He probably had some.
It feels like his influence.
Some say.
Yeah.
Probably had some influence.
If there was two small things that I could say that don't kind of keep it from going like all the way for me, for a 2-hour running length, it kind of stretches its premise a little bit thin for 2 hours. I started to feel it a little bit, but also I was never bored by it either. I just started to notice, you feel like you're on the edge of, okay, I could feel the movie's getting a little bit long now, but then they'll do something else, and it's like, okay, I'm back in it again. But still, there are those moments. And also, it's like there's two main characters that are really fleshed out. Obviously, the two central pillars we've been talking about between Bette Davis's Maggie and Monty Woolley's Sheridan. They're the pillars that hold up the whole film. You also have some decent supporting. And Sheridan did a pretty good job as Lorraine, the actress who's kind of that he calls in to try and break up the romance between his secretary and her love interest. You've got, obviously Jimmy Durante's fun when he's on there, but he comes in very late. There's the guy who Maggie recruits to try to help her defend off, basically, Sheridan's attempt to try and thwart things. And that whole back and forth is one of the greatest parts of the film. I love the back and forth. They're kind of using these two other people to fight each other off. And I love that that was one of my favorite parts of the movie, actually. But the love interest himself kind of falls kind of flat. He felt like he was one of the props to me.
I don't know if that was intentional or not. He was in many ways, he was, what did you call it that one time? Not what'd you call it? It's actually a thing. He was the, what's that word? It's like this, the movie has this thing, but it's not really about this thing, but everyone thinks it's about this thing. You know what I mean?
Maguffin?
Is it the why is that the word I wanted to use? I wanted to use that word, but yeah, the MacGuffin or the because we talked about it a lot with the Falcon.
Yeah, when it comes to the thing that everyone's fighting over, and so he could kind of be that. He feels like I said, he feels like he's more like the prop, and I can forgive that because although he did cause me some concern early on. First of all, because it's like, wow, their relationship developed really quickly. And I would not have put the whole scene between her and Sheridan about her revealing to Sheridan that she's going to be marrying this guy and that it's probably going to be causing them to have to, to go their separate ways in terms of professionally. And it's like, wow, you'd almost expect this to be happening later, but it's like I didn't see what the movie was going for yet. I didn't know what it was up to with that he was going to be used. I thought the romance itself was going to be kind of more central to the plot, and it wasn't. And that's fine, but it just felt like that's where, that feels like it's a bit rushed. It's like, where I thought I would have expected that we'd have seen that later, but no, it's like, okay, once I started to see what was going on with it, it's like, actually, this is something better than what I was thinking I was going to get. So it was still a step up, but for a minute there, the movie had me worried.
You want to know something kind of funny?
What's that?
I don't know if you thought about this, and it's not really. It's just kind of funny that this happened. That little subplot there, of what was happening, of him kind of getting into stardom, and then all of a sudden this woman who is also very, very popular, who's a star herself.
Yep.
Beyond Christmas.
Yes. I was thinking the same thing. Yeah. Only that was the central element. And it's like,
that was. And in some ways, it's like they got rid of her the same exact way.
Oh, man. And I will say that joke with the coffin, that was such, that she was go in and she'd come out again. And she'd go in and she'd come out again. It's like, okay.
I don't know.
It shouldn't work. There's so many things in this movie that shouldn't work that just do. Yeah. And it's like, pretty much because there's enough people here who are kind of highfalutin or full of themselves and they all get a peg or two taken out. This is what I'm here for. And especially when it comes to Sheridan. I love seeing him get deflated. When he's watching Bette Davis or when he's watching Maggie kind of unfold her plot to foil him, and he's just kind of seething under the surface, he's even more irate than usual, and it's like, okay, this is what I was waiting for. It was richly deserved. If I was to pick one more thing that I didn't like, is that I wish they had kept Maggie, a little bit more feisty all the way to the end instead of having. I mean, I appreciate that her emotional breakdown did trigger eventually, Sheridan's his eventual kind of coming to terms with what he's done. That's that, and I understand that. So it didn't kill it for me, but I did feel like it's like I wanted her. Some part of me really wanted to see her stay strong to the end. Maybe give him an undercut in a different way. And I could be just making this up because it's like, well, if she had just given more verbal riposts, that doesn't seem to get through to him. But seeing her actually break down, maybe that would. So maybe I'm wrong. Actually, as I'm talking myself through it, I'm talking myself out of my own criticism. So
I can see where you're coming from, though. But this shows the way that women are kind of viewed in the time period, in some ways, because like it's like, you know, they'll be fierce and then they're gentle, like incredibly gentle with, and they lose that bit of fierceness and everything that they kind of went with. And that's really just a product of the time.
It is.
I don't want to sit here and say that this movie to me is not like a centerpiece or is just reeking with misogyny or anything like that. I'm saying that it's really, I would actually make an argument that this is a more progressive movie.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. So where do you want to come down on this, man?
You know what? I'm looking at your notes. I have the same as you, but if you want to go first on that, I'm just
sure.
Or just want me to go say it.
Where we're both at pretty much is that, trust me, it's not a perfect film, but it is a really, really fun film. And I think for me, it stretches its premise just a little bit past, like I said, just a little bit past its ideal runtime. The thing with the male love interest being kind of a set prop, that was a little annoying at first, but a lot of these things kind of take care of themselves. A lot of my concerns as I was watching the film get addressed. My energy as an audience member was refocused onto something that's more valuable than what I was thinking I was going to get. I wouldn't put this in like a vault of my absolute favorite movies. Like, this is not like Fortune and Glory. But for not being that, this is still way up there for me. It's one of my favorite comedies I've seen on Movie Bones, for sure. And I think it deserves to be as high as it is.
I like a movie that spoofs people, and this is a good spoof of people, especially now that we know the information behind it. Yeah, you're right. There is a bit of a longness to this that maybe doesn't need to be. Comedies don't have to be very long movies, but the acting's so good that it's like, yeah, I'd sit down and watch it. And if you put it in front of me again, like, I would probably sit down and watch it again. You said that you would love to see a remake of this movie. I think that'd work. And like, we have people. I'm telling you right now, I don't think they would do this, but Stacy Keach, absolutely. Like, that'd be the person I'd be going to play this person. But there's plenty of people that I think could pull off a centric like this, and you could even update it for like the time period, because like we have podcasts, so that would work.
I'm trying to think of another actor who I didn't even think of Stacy Keach. I mean, you're the first one who brought him to mind. He has the look of it. He has the look of a type of character that could pull off Sheridan's what he's doing with the whole very sharp tongued wit. And you've seen him in stuff that I haven't. But I think there's certainly something you could do with it, at least the concept of it. Yeah, it was tremendous fun. So, but in any case, so at this time, we like to remind our listeners out there that if you're having a good time listening to Ryan and me dusting off these old movies in search of celluloid treasure, please do like and subscribe, comment, and of course, follow us on your podcast purveyor of choice. Tell us what you think we got wrong. We're not perfect. And clue us in on a few titles you'd like us to see cover in future episodes. As long as they're available for free on Tubi or other kind of free streaming services, because this adventure comes with no strings attached. And on the subject of future episodes, Ryan, what movies should our listeners, tune into so that they can keep up with us next week?
Sorry, I'm looking into something because I'm making sure I have the right person that I'm thinking of when this is, because I feel like I've heard of this. I know I've seen him before in things. Anywho, so this is what Tubi says about next week's episode. During the Cold War, a small New England town thinks Russia is invading when a Soviet sub crashes and takes a family hostage in this slapstick comedy. Slapstick comedy, mind you, that I just found out was nominated for an Academy Award.
Okay.
So that's something. This movie stars Alan Arkin. That's who I was looking up, because I was like, why? That name sounds so familiar to me. Because I was thinking of the guy that was in MASH.
Yeah. It's Alan.
Is he in that?
No, you're thinking of, it's not Alan Arkin. Oh, good grief. I've seen him in so much. Oh, Alan Alda.
That's who I was thinking of. Now, here's a reason why Alan Arkin might be a name that we somewhat know. He died a couple years ago. About a couple years, he died in 2023. He was in Little Miss Sunshine, which was a very popular movie.
He was in The Rocketeer back in the 90s, I think.
Yeah. Alan Arkin, Jonathan Winters.
Yeah.
Who, again, we know him.
We've seen you.
Carl Reiner.
Carl Reiner? Carl Reiner just tragically... Was that? No. Am I thinking of... Carl Reiner was the one who just killed. Robert Reiner.
You're thinking of Rob Reiner.
I think they're related though.
Yeah, that was his son.
Wow.
Eva Marie Saint, who is the age of 101, or she's not passed on yet. Tubi's title is kind of wrong. This is not The Russians Are Coming. This is The Russians Are Coming, The Russians Are Coming.
Yeah, I had to limit the title for, yeah.
Okay.
And I'll have to do it for when I put the title on the episode, like for YouTube, it's going to have to be shrunk down. It is.
Oh my goodness, this movie. I think this movie is well loved. Hopefully we love it. I'm looking at the budget. Its budget was $3.9 million. Its box office was $21.7 million.
Wow.
And I feel like for that time period, it's really good.
Yeah, I'll say. It's also directed by a guy named Norman Jewison, who directed a very different movie. Actually, Norman, and the director is actually someone that it's like, he's had one of the most varied careers I've ever seen. He did this movie, obviously, that we're going to be watching next week, In the Heat of the Night, which is obviously not a very different tone from this movie. And also one from the 80s called, have you seen Moonstruck?
No.
It's with Cher. It's really good, by the way. Didn't
she win an Oscar off that movie?
She did, yes. She slapped Nicolas Cage in the face.
Cher is going to go down. This is so off the topic. Cher is going to go down in so many ways in history as someone who we did not appreciate enough while she was here.
She seems like a really class act, you know? She's
a class act, and she is just so wickedly talented. But this movie that we're about to watch, this was not, we're not talking about just, best comedy film. This was nominated for Best Picture.
Oh, seriously. I have seen this before, but it never struck me as, Best Picture material. Of course, I haven't seen it in a long time. I'm going to get a refresher, is what's going to happen. But
the National Board of Review Awards has it at 9th place of its top 10 films.
That's incredible.
I am hoping I am not being oversold this movie.
I know, right? I mean, because here's the thing, Ryan. It's like, I have seen this movie before, but if it's as good as they said it was, then my memory is faulty. Because I don't, but it's been so long, I don't remember what I thought of it. But if if a movie's that highly rated, you think you would never forget it. You'd stick with you, Anyway, I'm going to have a refresher one way or the other, folks. That's what's in store next week. I can't think of anything else to say this week, Ryan, and I think we're both in the same boat that way. So, folks out there, we'll see you next week, and I'll see you next week, Ryan.
See you next week.
See you next week, folks. Bye-bye.
Sensitive boy. You'll be kind to him, won't you?
Confound it, June, when did you learn that I'm always kind and courteous? Bring this idiot in.